Just a guy running backwards. Lockdown's got us all backwards. Everything's twisted.
First Shanghai, now Beijing.
And you've seen bouts of panic buying because Beijing is very fearful.
And restaurants are only doing takeout now.
Hi, I'm Nico.
And I'm Jack.
And as you can see, we are very much still in Beijing. As you know, our plan was to leave Beijing and move to another city in China. Shenzhen's a very, very young city. It's only been around for...
But that hasn't exactly been going to plan now, has it? The main reason, of course, being...
COVID. I'm sure you've all seen the news concerning Shanghai. I have friends that live there that have been affected way worse than us here in Beijing. Months of total lockdown, struggles to buy food and deliveries, group buys, not to mention the fear of actually catching the virus and getting sent to centralized quarantine. It has been so hard for the city and kind of freaked people out. If this can happen in Shanghai, it could happen anywhere.
So at the end of April, Beijing started to report a few cases here in the city. And to be quite frank, people went into panic mode. Now, we've had a few cases off and on throughout the year, but this time, I think it felt kind of different. You know, given the situation in Shanghai and how things are unfolded there, people were afraid that the same thing could happen here.
At this point, we were actually on our road trip around Beijing. And we ended up cutting the anxiety-ridden trip short.
To be honest though, it was probably the best decision that we could have possibly made. There was like a flurry of rumors flying around and people were going crazy, just like grabbing stuff off the supermarket shelves.
Yeah, but thankfully the shelves were getting stocked pretty quick and the panic soon wore off. When we got back to the city, we decided we should probably do the same and stock our shelves too, even though we didn't really want to weigh ourselves down because we were actually planning on moving. And you had a lucky escape, didn't you, Jack?
I certainly did. So whilst you were messing around going and picking up rice and vegetables and a few needless items, I went off to the foreign supermarket to pick up some coffee and some tasty IPAs. Unfortunately, somebody who actually contracted COVID ended up at the store just a few hours after me, meaning that they then closed it down and forced all of the fellow customers to isolate. Lucky escape.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky so far, touch wood. There's a 7-Eleven near us and there was a case in there the other day and it's completely shut down the whole street. Also, this compound as well has had a case, which means this snack shop that's adjacent is completely empty. Damn, their liang cai is so good. But seriously though, every time we go out, it's just a reminder of just how lucky we've been so far. We know a lot of people whose compounds have been quarantined and they've been isolated, forced to rely on government rations. But luckily, we don't know anyone who's been bundled off to the quarantine facility yet.
Jack.
Yeah. Okay, so probably our biggest reminder of just how serious the situation actually is here is our daily visit to these impromptu test centers that sprung up all across the city. You'll find them in car parks, public spaces, and street corners everywhere. Yay, another queue. How many of these have you done so far?
Oh, I've lost count, to be honest, so many. I don't really mind, but to be honest, the novelty has kind of worn off. It's getting a little bit boring standing in a queue every single day.
Yeah, it certainly is. At first, everyone seemed pretty polite, pretty compliant, but I've noticed in recent weeks, like a few kind of local people here are getting a bit irate. You know, when they run out of test tubes or when they're waiting in queue for like more than an hour, people are starting to lose their rag a bit and shout at the volunteers.
Ah, that's a real shame because these small inconveniences are really nothing compared to what they actually have to go through. It has been baking hot for the last few weeks and they've got to sit there all day in their hazmat suits.
I do find it quite moving to think about the fact that these aren't doctors or anything or nurses in these blue coats. They're just ordinary people living in our hutongs who are just kind of volunteering to help. It's yeah, quite inspiring really, especially some of them are quite old, you know.
I also feel a little bit bad because we don't have a Chinese ID, so every time we come to get a test, they have to fill in all of our details. NICO.
Wow, there's a proper deep throater one there. It's so mental to think that like just in a few months this has become as routine as breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? If you told me 3 years ago that this was going to be the new normal, I don't think I would have believed you.
You kind of forget what life was like before, but then when you come to a place like this, you remember just like how surreal it is. We've got like an amazingly beautiful temple and then these COVID tents and a temporary fence, and like I just find like the contrast, I don't know, really surreal.
It's not just public parks and lakes that have been closed off. Malls, gyms, shops, and even entire neighborhoods have been sealed off. What are you going to do first when things reopen, Jack?
Oh, I don't know, probably get a haircut, I think. Maybe get a nice cold beer and go to gym for a workout, although in no particular order.
I'll join you for the cold beer. Businesses have been affected and people have been encouraged to work from home. And for the first time since 2020, transport links have been stopped. Some subway stations are closed and some taxis and Didis are only allowed to travel to and from certain areas.
As we were already planning on leaving Beijing, we were actually working on a bunch of films, like leaving Beijing content, before it hit the fan. And so we decided, you know, we've got to keep on going, we've got to carry on making these films. But given the ever-changing opening rules, it was just a nightmare as we never knew what would be open. But we did get lucky, we made it to Yonghegong Lama Temple, this place. In about the past 2 years, it's only been open for about 2 weeks, so we got pretty lucky there.
But one thing that has remained consistent is that you can't dine inside at restaurants. But that's not too bad because you can still get a takeaway, although it does leave you at the mercy of the weather. A little bit freezing. Oh, these warm noodles are warming my hands off. Because many wide open spaces like parks were closed and people couldn't go to restaurants to hang out, they went to places that weren't closed off, like the Liangmai River or the Hutongs, which became overcrowded with people wanting to get out and enjoy the sun.
And yeah, the authorities' response was basically to erect these big green fences anywhere where there was benches, places to sit down. Just the other side of this fence is a lush-looking park, but there's this big furry fence in the way.
Limit line. No fun. No fun past this line. It all sounds quite dramatic, but I think people are reluctantly coming to terms with the new normal. And at the time of making this video, things are starting to look up.
Yeah, they certainly are. You know, case numbers are dropping. People are gradually going back to work. Public spaces are even starting to reopen.
Yeah, like this park, which is super exciting. But no sooner had we got that exciting news, then this happened.
What the hell just happened here?
This went open overnight. We haven't been out today.
That's not a good sign, is it?
That is not a good sign.
Jeez.
Thankfully, we haven't been locked into our street yet, but it does make me worried that this very permanent gate has been erected at the end of our alley. Many people in my hutong don't actually have bathrooms, so they have to use the bathroom on the street. Because of this, I'm hoping that we don't get locked in, but the anxiety and the fear is real.
Authorities are taking an incremental approach, first locking down individual buildings, then expanding the measures to whole neighbourhoods if the virus spreads.
So after that little gate scare, where a gate has been put up to the entrance of our hutong and we're not exactly sure when it's going to get locked, we thought we'd better buy some supplies. So this is what we got. Whether you agree or not with the way things are handled, it's all part of the zero COVID goal. If you choose to live here during the good times, then you need to accept the things that happen during the bad times. So all we can do is try and make the best out of a bad situation by being prepared, doing things for our mental health, and trying to not let it overwhelm us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the last few weeks have been pretty tough, to be honest, and some days are definitely better than others. We've also got a lot going on besides COVID, like a lot of other things affecting us at the moment.
Yeah, we really do, which is one of the reasons why we haven't updated you guys, because we actually don't know exactly what's going on. But as soon as we find out, so will you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.